For more on this, let's bring in CNN senior law enforcement analyst, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and our CNN contributor, former Nixon White House counsel John Dean. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us. I just want to hold up this front page of the New York Times because, people might be asking you, what's the big deal with these documents? Or why are we making such a fuss of Trump having these documents? Mar-a-Lago, U.S. feared Trump files put spies at risk. I mean, that sums it up right there. The fear is that our U.S. spies may have been put at risk in all of this. Andrew, your thoughts?
Jim, it's just absolutely stunning. I mean, this sort of information is the lifeblood of our national security apparatus. The collection of source information, the collection of signals intelligence, which is overhears the communications of foreign governments and foreign terrorist entities, all kinds of things. FISA coverage, so our own court-authorized interceptions of those sorts of intelligence, and of course, human intelligence. These are people whose lives are literally on the line every single day. If their efforts to assist the United States are uncovered, they could die. And to think,
so somebody could get killed as a result of this information being out there.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And to think that the man who used to be swore an oath to ensure that the laws are faithfully executed, the guy who is formerly, most responsible for the security of this nation, has got that stuff sitting around in his basement, mixed in with personal photos and letters. It's just absolutely stunning. It's wildly irresponsible and dangerous.
And John Dean, 184 classified documents totaling some 700 pages. These aren't even the classified documents that the FBI found. This is the stuff Trump willingly gave them. The Department of Justice points to potential obstruction. What stands out to you?
Well, I think probably the most impressive thing is the carelessness with which Trump handled this. I remember my briefing when I got my top secret clearance, and I actually was above top secret. And two agents came over from the CIA and had my secretary there, and we had about a 35, 40-minute conversation about how to deal with these documents, what were the consequences if they ever leaked. We had to have a safe installed in the office to deal with them, and they impressed me because one of the things they said, if these documents are compromised that you get, it could be somebody's life. And that's pretty dangerous. And I'm sure, I can't believe that Trump wouldn't have gotten even a better briefing than I got as White House counsel. So the carelessness to take these, we don't know if he packed them up or ordered them packed up. We don't have those kind of details yet. But we know he did learn they were at Mar-a-Lago, and he called them his documents. He wanted to keep them. He was told they weren't his, but yet he continued to obstruct, if you will. And I think that he's going to have to pay the piper on this one.
And Andrew, I want to zoom in on this phrase, no foreign, this designation, no foreign. Again, that means essentially no release to foreign nationals. It's eye-catching because several foreign nationals have been arrested at Mar-a-Lago in recent years. I mean, this has made news from time to time. And a new report from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette even says a federal investigation is underway into a Ukrainian immigrant who used a false identity to rub elbows with Trump at Mar-a-Lago last year at the same time that all of these documents were there. So, I mean, there is a concern. Obviously, you would be committing law enforcement malpractice, I would assume, if you did not have a concern about this.
I mean, Jim, I spent many years conducting and overseeing counterintelligence investigations. And I can tell you that Mar-a-Lago is a spy's dream. It's a soft target. It's open to the public. There's all sorts of ways in for a trained, determined intelligence officer. There are all kinds of ways in there. And you know that if you get in, you've got a person who had access to the government's most sensitive secrets and who also has shown a track record over the last several years of handling those secrets irresponsibly, of sharing them with people that he shouldn't have, and obviously storing stuff in an unauthorized fashion on the premises. So it's it's absolutely a spy's dream to target, to try to get into Mar-a-Lago and get a look around at whatever you might find.
And John, the affidavit lays out 4 objectives of this probe. One is to, quote, identify any person or persons who may have removed or retained classified information without authorization and or in an unauthorized space. That's one of the key mysteries here. How many hands did these pass through, I suppose, is one of the questions, on the way to Mar-a-Lago? And if Trump didn't pack or transport these documents himself, does that matter in terms of his legal defense?
Well, I think he's already claimed that the movers did this and they packed them up. And GSA, the people who did actually do some transporting, say they did not pack the boxes. Had nothing to do with that phase of it. So, you know, there'll be a lot of finger pointing and going around. But I think that the basic issue is, you know, he has a reputation for this kind of mishandling. When you read the affidavit, you're struck by the depth of research and investigation that's already been done. This is a pretty mature investigation in my eyes, and I think that we're going to get answers sooner rather than later. I would hope this year on where they're going to deal with this, and because it is now so glaring that it affects all the handling currently of national security information. And this can be a teaching moment where somebody like a Donald Trump, who has very little respect for the rule of law, is held accountable. I can't imagine him not being, and with this blatant misbehavior and abuse of his powers.
And Andrew, Trump and his allies are trying to discredit the affidavit. We've seen some of this on social media, conservative media, by arguing all the redactions are hiding some sort of sham political angle, some sort of conspiracy. Help us set the record straight. Is this anything other than an unprecedented transparency into an ongoing, highly sensitive federal investigation? I mean, there are some folks who have been saying, you know, that perhaps the feds gave away too much.
Ongoing investigation. An ongoing counterintelligence investigation, and we're talking about an affidavit for a search warrant. No one has been charged yet. This is beyond unprecedented. Search warrant affidavits are never unsealed until somebody has been charged, and then the warrant in its full content is provided to the person charged so they can use it essentially in their defense. They can attack the warrant, they can attack the process, all those sorts of things that defendants can do. We don't even have a defendant here yet. So the idea that the department had to go through this process was really pretty chilling, I'm sure, for the prosecutors involved. But clearly, this is an unprecedented situation. You have a former president here. You have a department that's literally under attack from the former president, all of his supporters every day with these baseless lies and misinformation on social media. I think the judge wanted to be as transparent as he possibly could be. I think the department did a pretty good job here. They left a lot of meat on the bone. The facts that would not compromise the investigation were not redacted. And so obviously there are categories of information that had to be redacted to protect witnesses, to protect grand jury information, and to protect the investigation. I think they did a pretty good job.